The world is full of charismatic people saying, "Hey, listen to me, man. I know it's right for you." And their friends crowding in saying, "You should believe in him. He's got a special connection to God." This leaves you wondering, should I have faith in these guys, or are they just a bunch of phonies? The Jewish tradition doesn't get worked up over questions of faith because it doesn't hold that anyone has a monopoly on God. Here's why. In Parshat Beshalach, we find the Israelites trapped between slaughter by the sword of Pharaoh and drowning in the depths of the Red Sea. They cry out to Moses, "Why did you lead us out of slavery only to destroy us in the desert?" Moses stretches out his arm and says, "Let me ask you a question. Are you ready for God? Because here he comes." And with that, a holy hurricane comes howling down from the heavens and hammers at the sea until, miraculously, a dry path emerges between walls of towering water. They cross, and then Pharaoh's legions come charging in after them, only to be struck with pillars of fire and consumed in a boiling cauldron. And the people rejoice, saying, "Now this is my God." So God revealed itself not to one person alone, but to the entire nation of Israel. Think about it. We're talking mass revelation here to some 3 million people. Our ancestors then passed this amazing story down from generation to generation, an unbroken chain leading to you today, right now. That's why the sages of old tell us you don't need to have faith in anyone but your parents. If your mother and father are telling you the truth, then you can follow their story back up the chain to the splitting of the sea to know God is true. We often forget that the freed slaves from Egypt never made it across the Jordan. After a generation of wandering, it was their children that got to cross that river into the promised land. We all know a chain can't begin without a first link, but it's the second one that's most important. It decides whether the first is a link in a chain or just a lonely metal ring. Imagine being part of that fragile second generation, the one born in the desert. You never felt the bite of the lash or the ecstasy of the Red Sea. You have no memory of those defining moments. You have only sand and rocks and the endless drone of your parents. They're telling you about the supernatural Exodus, but are they overselling it? And now they're going on and on about how bad slavery was. And you have to ask yourself, are they exaggerating the cruelty, the deprivation? And however bad it was, you begin to wonder, is the monotony of the desert any better? And finally, there's the never-ending trash talk about Amalek. This tribe of violent people descended from Esau, still fuming that their ancestor was swindled out of his birthright. When your parents were still stumbling out of Egypt, tired and thirsty, Amalek heard them coming, swarmed out of the mountains like voracious locusts, and ambushed them in their moment of weakness. Your folks successfully fought Amalek off, but now Mom and Dad are asking you to take holy vows to mercilessly destroy Amalek the next time you happen to bump into them in a canyon somewhere. Really, folks? Sounds like a pretty violent solution for people so offended by violence. And maybe all this leads you to start thinking, if I hate Amalek because of what my parents told me, maybe Amalek hates me because of what their parents told them. And all of a sudden, that silly question of faith that the other nations have to worry about becomes your problem too. Are your parents faithfully linking you back to the Exodus from Egypt? Or are they destined to end up a lonely metal ring? Only you can decide.